damn it. I want to say thanks to Inner Sanctum for the shout out last week. He's also putting together a hard body. I think he's staying more towards the hand tools, kind of like bolt-on stuff to get the truck where he wants it for now. I think that's his plan. But yeah, he's putting together a hard body. He gave me a shout out. Obviously a lot of people aren't building one like this because this is a little involved. Especially, I mean, I think everything for me went downhill when I learned how to weld. That was what made everything take so long. So, yeah. Short update video. The SC300 Mark IV Supra front subframe that was going in the truck, that was going to be all fine and dandy, wasn't. I'll show when I grab the camera where I looked at some pictures and stuff online because I did not have a steering rack for this subframe. And after looking at the pictures, I realized that the universal joint that comes out of the rack looked to be right dead center of the frame rail, the driver's side frame rail. So after I finally picked up all the stuff from that junkyard in Massachusetts, which those guys suck. Yeah, whatever. Getting it home, bolting everything together and putting it roughly where it had to go, just raised up, the universal joint is dead center of this frame rail. So now I've just decided the whole front of the frame is just going to get cut off right where the cab stops on the bottom. And I'm just going to come across, basically box the front of the chassis and use that as my two pickup points for the front cage. And then come up with frame rails to run right over top of the subframe, mount it like that, and be done with it. At this point, it would have been way easier and probably a lot faster just to build a full frame for this thing, because it's ultimately going to be 3 feet, thanks neighbor kid, 3 feet of stock frame rail, just the straight runs, that's it. That's all that's going to be here. So, yeah, oh well. Live and learn, I guess. I'll show you what I was talking about here. Obviously it's not lined up right now, it's sitting off, but the two mounting points right there sat a few inches off about right here, and this universal joint is dead nuts here. And then this, from where it was sitting, has to come up 6.5 inches, which puts it right in the middle of this guy. Plus the back pickup point for the lower control arm. The top of that sits almost level with the top of the frame up there when this thing is sitting where it needs to be. So, like I said, the front frame will probably get cut off. These guys are going to go, and it will probably get cut off somewhere. I'll have a piece of steel that runs all the way across, and that'll be my outriggers to catch the cage here. That old body mounts, or the old cab mounts, coming off. There'll be another why can I not think of it right now? There'll be another outrigger back there to catch the hoop, and then everything should be ready to go. I put the seat back in it to see how high it was, how my visibility was out the windshield with the stock steering wheel. That's the stock steering column, and hopefully I can still use that because it fits, everything's right where it needs to be. It's great. My foot room, it's gonna be a little tight. After the cage goes in, I might notch this driver's side frame rail down a few inches just under the foot. The seat sits great, the seat's perfect. But the foot room down here, it's gonna be tight. So I might take, once the piece is tied across, I might come into this frame rail right here. Once the cage is in, obviously, and this is it won't be just all the weight trying to pull on the frame, and notch this frame rail down maybe 2 inches and cut it all the way out. That'll give me a little bit more room for pedals. Haven't decided if I'm going to go with a floor mount pedal box or the swing style that comes up from there. The rear plate is on. I'm not even going to put a plate on the other side. The plates I made 4 of them. 2 for the outsides, 2 for the insides. I'm not going to put the inside one in because this thing is way overkill for this. What I'm going to do is I'll end up boxing that in. You can see it there. And finishing it off so it just doesn't look like a piece of steel. Well, it'll do a piece of, you know, just 2 buttered up pieces of steel. Kind of just getting a rough of how the cage is going to go in the 2 rear support bars to the rear part of the chassis, somewhere close in there. That's just a piece of 1.5 inches. I'm going to end up using 1 5/8 inches. So that's just kind of hanging out there with a little tiny screwdriver, keeping it from rolling. So that's a quick update. Hopefully now I will mark the frame rails, cut the frame rails off, and get all that stuff done, and probably order the tube to start putting the cage together, because once I build those frame rails out the front, then it's going to have the support bars from the front to come out and probably catch the suspension pickup point, which is going to be somewhere right in this area. Put the dash bar in, build the frame rails to catch all this stuff, and then hopefully we'll be ready to go. I'm going to try to reuse that's the stock dash bracing in there too. Try to keep that, not that it's going to have it'll have a radio with some speakers, but nothing, you know, the thing's probably going to be so loud and crazy as it is, whatever. Fuel still hanging out back here. I got to get the damn sump for that built, for the fuel pump, and get all that done. I also haven't decided if I'm going to run the radiator in the rear. And, oh, I probably didn't mention this either. The engine is probably going to go back even further, because I didn't realize in the SC300 Supras that the engine sits so far back on their cross member. So even with my mount, even with this engine sat back 4 inches further than matching it up on the stock mounts, when I put this up, I believe the engine still has to go back another inch to where it could drop on both those mounts, and the oil pan is going to clear the front subframe, the aluminum piece, and the steel piece. Steel piece isn't a big deal because I could cut that out and bend a bar that would cross it and miss it, but the only thing I'm worried about is I really don't want to notch into that subframe. So what I might end up having to do is I've already called Shaft Masters back and talked to them. Drive shaft's up there in the ceiling, and they told me to send the drive shaft back if I need to shorten it an inch. It's $90, so I might just end up doing that. And then figuring out where the shifter placement's going to be. So from where it's at there, if the engine goes back another inch, I might have to think about, I have this. This is a truck shifter, and it sits way more forward than, well, let me just bring this over. But I believe if I put that on, I have a truck tail shaft for this. But yeah, you can see where this shifter goes versus that's I believe the stock Mark III Supra location, or SC300, whatever. So depending on how far this thing sits back, once it gets back in the truck, I might have to pull this tail housing off of here again, put the linkage in, and I'm pretty sure I got that piece over here. Yeah, it's that guy right there is the one for that other shifter. So, all right, engine's still hanging out, great. Slowly but surely. Weather's getting better out here in upstate New York. Even though we're hanging out at home, I am still working, and the girlfriend's working on her bees. 2 hives, hopefully the end of April. We'll see.